Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here at Casa Filipka in Mexico City. We're here with curator, artist, performer Filipka Rutkowska.
Hi.
Hi. And with Bozna Wydrowska, which is a dancer, choreographer, performance artist, both based in Poland. And basically, we're gonna do this panel discussion to talk a bit more about the concept of Casa Filipka as a curatorial project that has been brought to Mexico by Filipka and Her Clique. And yeah, so this week we have the honor to discover, see, and enjoy the works of 16 Eastern European female, non-binary, and trans artists curated by
Yes.
Filipka here. And we're gonna start talking a bit about the concept, what was in your mind when you started developing the concept of Casa Filipka, where does it come from, what's inspiration?
Yes, so obviously I was inspired by the idea of home and what home can mean to me and to the people around me, to my friends, to the other queers. And I think this is very important because how you inhabit your home, how you live there, shows what's your situation in the society, what's your presence in the society, and people construct homes in a different ways. For example, home can be a place for reproduction and family and so on, but it can be also a kind of shelter when you create a safe space and you create maybe different kind of relationships that are not so focused on reproducing, but creating something different. Yes, connections to support each other. So that was my idea, and then I thought that then I heard about this Casa Susana, very amazing project that happened in the United States, in upstate New York, in the countryside, in the 50s, 60s. Like a few years ago, there were discovered photos at the flea market of this place. It was like suddenly someone, found, photos of trans women and cross-dresser that used to hang out together and one home for the weekends. And, it was like huge inspiration. And but the idea of Casa Susana was something different because at the time, being transsexual was illegal, so they needed to, hide a bit from the society, and it was like practicing daily life, in a safe space. Yes.
This was in the 1950s, right? In
50s,
upstate New
60s,
York.
yes. And nowadays the situation is like a bit different, fortunately. But I wanted to continue this idea in a different way, and I thought that maybe what about Casa Filipka that is not like, practicing daily life together, because we can do it also in our homes, it's like, okay, but maybe we'll just exhibit art and art collection and see how art can, like the language of art can tell us something about our identity, sexuality, and so on. So that was my thing, and then I also wanted to give like this performative dimension to the house. For example, performative aspect of house means that it can exist in many places. It can exist here for 3 days. This event is 3 days, but then maybe we can enact it in another place again. So we create this space. It's an ephemeral space. We hang the art. We invite people, and this is our home for 3 days, and then it can change. It's not like a house that you build for years. You can, inherit, after your parents and something. It's a different idea, yes? It's very subtle.
Yeah, it sounds like the house is the group of artists and the concept and the selection. And I want to ask you also, how did you select the artists? Like, what's the tie between the 16 artists, including Bozna, which is the only performance artist that is part of the show?
Yes, so the whole exhibition features artists mostly from young generation. I'm 32 and they are like all a bit older or a bit younger than me, but I think it's still young generation because they are still emerging artists and they are still experimenting a lot. And half of them are my friends. I think it was important to base this exhibition on real relations, with friends. it was nice because I already knew the work of them, and it was very creative. But then the rest was like my research. You know, I was checking what's happening in Poland, Ukraine, Czech Republic, Slovakia, to create this international Eastern European, let's say, network. And yeah, and they are working in different mediums. It's like most of them are photographies, I think, because yeah, it's there are not so many paintings, only one painting.
And what brought you to select Bozna as what was not just that, but like what was the importance of including a performer
Yes.
and the relationship between voguing, ballroom?
Yes, because I know that there must be a performance at a certain moment. I was hesitating if it should be like, you know, something that is distracted, you know, through the whole these 3 days, like a kind of performative intervention, or maybe it should happen only in one moment. And then finally, there were different ideas, but finally at the end, Bozna came out, and I think it fits perfect this concept, because voguing and all of the idea of voguing is also about home. Yes, so this was like another layer of home, and I also asked Bozna to maybe invite some people that live here to create like a new network of yes.
And how was that experience, Bozna, of coming to Mexico for the first time, joining other local voguing dancers?
Well, it was really, really exciting. Actually, it's my first time abroad Europe, so I was really curious, you know, about the culture here. And actually, ballroom culture is pretty big. It's really big, and it's there's also a lot of young people. And yes, I started to research, and I found 3 beautiful people, and yeah, it was pretty crazy because we met basically one day before the performance. But you know, we had to trust each other. Girls trusted me. We came up with this idea. I really was looking for persons, for people who are either transgender or non-binary. Me myself, I'm a non-binary artist, and we focused on subject of femininity because ballroom culture was created by trans women, black and Latino trans women in New York City in the 70s. So yeah, it's also kind of link between the idea of house, because like a ballroom house is it's like a family. It's not really a space. It's rather about the bond. And so this experience from yesterday, we kind of created, you know, a family. We kind of created a small house, and I'm super excited to hang out, you know, with the girls and really get into the culture. And it was great.
And being in Mexico and getting inside the ballroom community from here, have you found a lot of similarities, differences? How is it different in Mexico than in Poland, based on your this past days experience?
Well, actually, I cannot really tell because I haven't like got really in. I still have time to do it, and of course, like similarities are very visible because ballroom has its own specificity and rules and traditions. So communities all over the world, they respect, you know, the ideas who were created by communities in New York City before us, way before us. So so there's a lot of similarities, like we have common language and you know, the whole mechanism is similar. But what I was very excited about is the fact that girls here are chanting in Spanish. It never happens, you know? even me myself as a chanter. Chanter is somebody who is like a master of ceremony, who is yeah, who's like he's putting like everything in order, because ballroom culture is about the ball. So you are meeting at the at the venue, and there is a ball, and you have different categories, performative categories about your body, about your behavior, about your sexuality, about fashion, and you have to have somebody who would like get everything in order. So, and also chanter is a person who basically raps to the music. It's not really rapping, but it's not like a rap, but it's like it's it's something that gives you more power, and yeah. So everything is in English everywhere, and here is in Spanish, and I love it. I think it should be globalized. Yeah, so this is the first difference that I noticed.
And in terms of the energy and what you're trying to communicate, when the choreography is happening, is there like a special feeling that you're trying to convey to the audience, or is it very improvised? How is it feeling wise?
So when I perform, I'm trying to feel other people energies, and also this whole idea of me performing. When I perform, I'm very vulnerable, and sometimes I shift into this persona, very stage persona. So I'm shifting my energies, and also with the audience. It's very important for me to have the eye contact with them, to like have direct message, but also to have a space to come back to myself again. And it's for me it's super important to actually just to be vulnerable, and also to let myself to make a mistake. I often improvise. So I can I'm flexible, so I can.
Like yesterday night, I think it was necessary to improvise in this crowd. Very difficult task. You managed perfectly, but yeah, it was based on improvisation.
Yeah, and I felt good. Like at first, people were expecting a show, and I started to go inside my choreographic practice where I was hugging myself, and I closed my eyes, and I felt really good and safe, and I didn't feel like, oh, now you have to look at me, audience, like it's me here. No, I was like, if you see me, it's great. If you don't, it's great. And so it was interesting for me to emerge.
You were just fragile among the people, yes? It's always impressive when someone can show it, yes?
Yeah.
And you're also a performance artist, Filipka. So how do you feel when you're performing differently than when you're curating or when you're just being an artist?
I think once you step into performance, you cannot really leave it. So whatever I do, I always perceive it as a kind of performance. So if I'm working at the theater, or I don't know, so doing like office job, or now curating this show, for me it's always a kind of performance. I don't know, I cannot distinguish performance from reality anymore. But I think it can be also very creative, yes, and I think it works. Yes, this performative dimension of house, maybe I wanted to tell something about the exhibition in itself, because the house is performative, but it contains an exhibition. And the idea for the exhibition was for me that I wanted to focus on something that we call queer gaze. So to present the reality from the perspective of a person that is non-binary, because I get the feeling, or at least I know, that a big part of our social reality is structured by normative, straight, gays, and there is not still enough space for different, perception of it. And I thought that maybe through the exhibition you can like show people how you see the world around you when you are gender fluid and things are not that obvious and are blurred, and so yeah.
And you're definitely showing us in Mexico City, which most of us are seeing these works for the first time. You're showing us how is the context of everything in Eastern Europe. And this question goes for both of you. I was going to ask, what is the political and sociological context of the works? Is there anything that us coming from Mexico need to understand, need to know in terms of understand the pieces that we're seeing, the performance that we're seeing? How is it very special in Poland, different than in here?
Yes, I think when I was working on this exhibition, I thought that I tried to think about my region, Eastern Europe, through the lens of sexuality. And I've realized that this is a region in transition. And it's in a transition between Western Europe and Russia and the East, but also between all democracies and authoritarian states. It's like, we are very fragile in a way, and our history was also very fragile. And I think it's visible how people can perceive their identities in our part of the world. That they should be also a little bit blurred, not that obvious. Yes, not like this binary oppositions, because we are in the middle, between like two very strong different energies. And yes, and the politics was important because you can see in some of the works that they comment on what's happening in Eastern Europe. Like, for example, there is this backlash, political backlash with right-wing governments taking over in Poland, in Hungary. Yes, you see it affects queer community. We have like, we feel more oppression, yes, in the last years. So there is like a movement against and so on, like women's rights, abortion rights. It's like a very dynamic situation. Unfortunately, not in a good direction, but. Yeah, maybe it might change.
Yeah, politically, it's pretty difficult, but I think socially, I think people are maybe more aware and more open. Of course, like you have different points of view, and some people are watching a lot of television and internet and like all those. Informations, but yeah, as a member of queer community, like what I noticed, there is more and more variety, and we have a lot of queer people from Ukraine, from Belarus, also from different parts of the world and different continents, and it's also amazing that like, what are you doing here? And like they are, bringing fresh energy, and so the communities are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and yeah, it's great that it's actually happening despite all those political.
Yes, difficulties. Yes, but there are like these two dimensions. One, you have politics that are like suck, and then you have your community and strong network that we build, that actually create more diversity. So it's funny that politics, work in the opposite way some way, yes? That they wanted to limit our space, but finally we have in some way, stronger connection between us. So we have more space, yes, in a way. So it's, I think it's like this. And I think the thing that people discuss so much about sexuality now in Eastern Europe, this topic is very present. Because politicians wanted to speak about that, and this, started the whole discussion. Like in the public media, there are so many articles now with queer people, and this is amazing. It didn't happen before. Like our presence in television and so on, it's good. So.
And you feel that this has been because of the strong community ties that have been formed, or just because it's a global state of things?
A lot of factors. On one hand, around the whole world, people discuss a lot about sexuality. Then you have this political dimension, yeah. Also, sexuality was also very present in arts, I think, and that was important. A lot of exhibitions in the recent years, and especially performance, was very close to the body, and it affects society, I think, Like first you see it in art, and then it's present in social space. Yes, so maybe that's it. I believe in art, so I see it like this.
I mean, it usually happens with every other topic as well. Like
Yes.
it first manifests through art, through film,
Yes.
through music.
Yes.
And then, what would you say are some of the big challenges of living in such like a country with such, a strong communist past and all these like labels that are usually attached to things that we now see as legal, common, but how is like the more challenging side of things in Poland?
Mm, For me personally, the challenging is dealing with the trauma that we inherited from our parents and grandparents and great-grandparents who were, struggling in the past. So we, as a new generation, when we basically have everything, we have access to information and how we can actually survive right now because so it's for me it's important, very interesting subject to discover right now. And I'm talking about the identities and what we were talking before, that we are between east and west, and basically Poland isn't in a very good geographical place. Never been, maybe. Yeah. So how our history is pretty sad, and but now we are here to make to think about our future. But if it comes to political aspects, it's difficult nowadays because the government is trying to block, especially our expression as a queer community. I mean, like, it's hard to organize stuff. Like, we don't have funds, and like all the big institutions are more leaning to the right wing type of art, and we don't have really spaces like in a city, so we have to come up with new ideas and make new spaces for us.
Can you give us an example of a new idea or a new space?
Well, I think the club culture is very important. I think it always has this political aspect, and it was a way of it was a type of resistance towards the reality somehow. And so I think the club culture is something where people are finally getting together, and there is no hierarchy. So
And
and balls, of course.
small galleries maybe, yes? We have small galleries, yes. But this institutional space with art centers and museums is mostly like temporarily gone, not available for us, but it's okay. I think it will come back, It's like the question maybe of 10 years, I don't know. But it's like before, yes, it was nice. You could have like a performance at the National Gallery of Art, and now it doesn't happen anymore, yes, because they don't
Since
invite
when?
you. 3 years. It's like different institutions are taken over like by another political option, and it's like it started like 5 years, and it depends who is director and this kind of how long is the contract and so on. But it changes in this direction that you have less space when you are busy with this topic that we like. But yeah. But this club spaces, I think it works. There are a lot of collectives now. And they also create schools, and you can attend school of that is dedicated to performance, that is totally independent from the governmental funds and so on. And it works. People really can organize themselves. So we are not lost. And when it comes to the post-communist past, it's interesting because, for example, we were born after the political change. Yes, I was born in '91. I think you were born. So we didn't experience communism. So we see it a little bit differently than our parents. And for example, my friends, they, for example, there are other people think that there are a lot of positive things in communism because it was about relations between people. You know, my generation likes to see it like this. Yes, they like to relate to communism. They want to even introduce queer communism. You know, where everybody will be equal. You know, so it's
how
like
does that work?
all of this. I will see how it will work. I don't know. It's like one of the utopias. Maybe it will, you know, happen in some spheres of the society. I hope. I would love to see that. But this communist past is definitely one of the sources of inspiration, you know, for people that work with sexuality. The idea of equality, I think, it's important in this, yes. So.
And what would you say is the message that you can carry around the world, like to stop kind of like this blockage that there are, or to try to like make it more open, make it more accessible to everyone?
You mean exactly the...
In terms of things that are maybe prohibited in Europe, and like you're trying to fight it with these collectives, small institutions.
Yeah, I think it differs in every part of the world is different because, for example, in Poland, in Eastern Europe, you can, you know, you don't have funds from the government, but it's legal for you to organize, yes? But I know that, you know, like in the Middle East, for example, you know, it's a very different situation, yes, because it's illegal for them also, you know, to even organize. So it's like, I don't think it's like universal, you know, it really depends on your geopolitical, you know, situation, yes. We like to complain now that we are in a bad situation, but we are not that bad. It's like, you know, it's, yeah, we just hope for more, yes, but it's, yeah, it's like this.
And can you take us through the pieces where you're present at the show? You were telling, Filipka was giving me a tour around the house, and there are some photographs where she's kind of posing in front of the institutions. Can you talk a bit about those pieces?
Yes, so there is one series that I created a few years ago with my friend. It was like a kind of guided tour around Warsaw, and I was posing with different buildings that are like TV headquarters and Cathedral and so on. The buildings that are related to the institution that some way demonize you, and I wanted to come closer and show that this architecture of this building also has some queer features, you know. So, and also it was like to be more present in public space, you know, to create this kind of visual image when, you know, queers are there in the streets, you know, so people can know that you are there. But I think the most important work for me in this exhibition is the one that hangs in the staircase, the one with the wall that is dismantled by a girl with a hammer. And I think this is like, this is like the metaphor of dismantling walls, patriarchy and so on, but it's also a connection between Mexico and Poland because there are walls on the borders, new walls. There is wall between Mexico and the United States, and there is wall between Poland and Belarus that stop migrants and refugees. And I think that that was like inspiration for me, that queer ideas, you know, are against walls and against divisions. And I want to make it visible in the middle of this exhibition.
Nice. And what do you feel like based on yesterday and the people that have come, what do you feel has been the reaction of people? How do you feel in terms of the show, being here?
You know, people always tell you that they like your exhibition, but they can pick something different. But I got the feeling that it was intriguing. I think it's like a nice combination, you know, suddenly, you know, Eastern queer European artists here. I think, you know, it's like a, maybe on one hand it's like an obvious connection, but for me the connection between the Mexican art scene and Eastern European art scene is already like established because it's not something new. I was inspired some way by an exhibition that happened 2 years ago at the Museum of Modern Art in Warsaw that was featuring artists from Mexico, Brazil, Eastern Europe about kinetic art and op art in 50s, 60s, 70s. That was very nice, and there was like a connection between our two regions of the world. And it was about utopia, how the people at the time, artists at the time, wanted to use kinetic art to imagine future in a better way. And I thought that maybe let's relate to this idea now, but you know, using another topic like sexuality, not kinetic art, but an op art, but bodies.
Nice. And is Casa Filipka a concept that you guys plan to continue doing? How do you see the evolution of this show, of this concept, the concept of home in a different home?
Yeah, I hope I would love to continue this, and definitely it will be related to exhibiting exhibition, to showing artworks and inviting new artists. I think there is a big potential in it because we created, nice network around us, and I think, yeah, so, no, I see future in this.
And Bozna, in the context of your work, do you usually perform in a context of fine art, in galleries? What has been your connection to the fine art world?
Uh, well, actually, yeah, I always work with the theme, and this theme of Casa Filipka was very close to me because I also I'm in a process of a transition and also process of getting my body and also my sexuality, which has been always something what was really repressed. And yeah, so this whole idea really spoke to me, and yeah, I really wanted to. I didn't know which subject should I go in, should I dig in, because there are so many. And yeah, I tried to put everything together, and also it was very important for me to, as a member of ballroom community, to involve also communities here and to make this kind of exchange and to get inspired. And also I really wanted to give the voice to the community here, because it's here and the community needs help, and it's not ballroom and voguing. It's very visually attractive and very inspiring, and but it's not only that, because it came from a place. It came from the dark place of inequality, and yeah, place of community wanted to actually, survive and support each other, and this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to, get support. Yeah. I don't know if I
Yeah, that's great. No, and you guys did definitely. We all learned a lot about Eastern European culture. We learned, like yesterday when the performance was going on, so many people who were there were seeing a performance of that kind for the first time. It was great to see the connection between the Mexican choreographers and you, as you said, like the Spanish and the English. I think it's been a great exchange, not just for the city, not just for us in Mexico City to see everything that's happening in Eastern Europe, in your generation, in your community, but also to see how it's kind of blending in to what's happening here. It was, really great to see, and everyone who's here has had a chance to enjoy some discovering new artists, new topics, new themes in general, and I just hope you can continue doing initiatives like this in Mexico and all around the world. And congratulations to both of you and to Her Clique for organizing such a special event and such a special activation in our city. Um,
Thanks. It's important to meet all of you and see you here and be together. Thank you very much. Thank you for this discussion.
We have some time if anyone has a question for Filipka, for Bozna.
I did the rehearsal in Warsaw, and Filipka came, and then two of my friends came who are also performers, and one of the performer had a friend She was living in London, and she met somebody who was connected with the performance and dancing here. So through this connection, I got into one person, and this person also gave me the contacts to other person, and it was through social media, basically. And the response was yeah, they were super excited to work with me, and happy to do it, and yeah, and also girls know each other, so instantly like it clicked because like they are very good friends. So yeah, it was. I already felt like I'm in this. I felt like I'm also part of it. Yeah. Yeah. It was. Yeah. I think it's not the end of our relationship. I think I really want to work with girls and meet their sisters and their brothers, and yeah. So I think it's beginning of beautiful friendship.
But you are dancing with them on Friday, yes? I'm coming.
Yes.
Okay, good. We have nice plans for the weekend.
Where?
Where it is, do you know? What's the name of the
I
place?
don't know. I
Okay,
don't
we
know.
need to check it.
But I will post it on my Instagram. So,
But it's party, not exhibition.
It's always exhibition.
Yeah, or it's always a party, you don't know.
Well, thank you very much to everyone. If there isn't another question, we're gonna wrap it up and open the next panel.